creeped out what one couple says a thief stole from them, but that's not all. What else their surveillance cameras caught him doing?
Plus, it's down to the wire what we could hear today in the closing arguments for the controversial ART project.
Also sealing the nomination, what's next after Hillary Clinton wraps up the Democratic National Convention as the first female presidential nominee.
Is with humility, determination, and boundless confidence in America's promise that I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
And this morning it is official. Hillary Clinton has accepted her party's nomination. You heard it there. She's now preparing to face off against Donald Trump this November.
That's right. The Democratic National Convention wrapped up just a few hours ago in Philadelphia. This morning, KRQE national correspondent Mark Meredith is live from where the cleanup is already underway. Mark?
Fernanda and Adam, good morning. It's going to be a long time to clean up because, of course, we saw thousands of balloons, confetti, even some fireworks last night after what you guys were just talking about, Hillary Clinton accepting her party's nomination after the week-long convention. She had a long speech, and she was delivering it before millions of viewers, trying to appeal to people that may have a different view of the Democratic Party. She wanted to reach people that haven't made up their mind for November. Here's another brief clip of what she said last night.
I will be a president for Democrats, Republicans, independents, for the struggling, the striving, the successful, for all those who vote for me and for those who don't.
Hillary Clinton hit on several different campaign themes last night. We heard her talk about the middle class. We talked about her. She talked about her upbringing and what kind of values she would like to bring to the White House if she gets the chance to go back. After all, she had the chance to serve as First Lady back in the 1990s. Last night, though, she also focused on her opponent, Donald Trump, mentioning him several times by name, trying to discredit him and his resume, also trying to paint him as a bigot and a bully. I don't know necessarily if this will work, though, because we saw so many of the Republican opponents in the primaries who tried to do the same thing against Donald Trump, and it just did not stick. We're going to have to wait for the polls to come out a little bit later this weekend, maybe early next week, to see what kind of convention audience boost Hillary Clinton will get from these polls. So, Adam and Fernanda, we still have a long way to go, 102 days between now and the general election, so we'll be watching very closely to see what happens next. Guys?
All right, Mark, and you've been on the ground for both conventions. Now that they're wrapped up, what kind of long-term impact will you see after the events we saw in Cleveland and Philadelphia?
The impact's going to be the themes going forward, because right now what we've seen is the pomp and circumstance of the last few days. We've seen the celebrities like Katy Perry. That is not going to last when people head to the ballot box in November. Instead, what will? The themes. Republicans in Ohio pushing national security, pushing the threat of ISIS. Here in Cleveland, it was the middle class, economics, and a level playing field. Adam, Fernanda, New Mexico voters will get to decide which path they want to go forward. Guys.
All right. That's Mark Meredith reporting from the Democratic National Convention. Thank you, Mark.
Also along the campaign trail, former New Mexico governor and Libertarian presidential candidate Gary Johnson continues his fight to get on the debate stage this fall. Johnson and his running mate, former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld, sat down with CNN's Wolf Blitzer at the DNC yesterday. The pair talked about their libertarian approach to the presidency, which they say is socially liberal, fiscally conservative, and aims for a small, efficient government. But both agree they're going to need to be at 15% in a series of 5 polls in order to have a chance at being part of the debates.
They're projecting an audience bigger for the first presidential debate than the Super Bowl. So no way that you have a chance of winning without being in that Super Bowl.
Johnson says former presidential candidate Mitt Romney is considering endorsing him. We're following the latest on the presidential race 24/7 on air and on our website, KRQE.com. You can also stay up to date while on the go using the KRQE News app. Time is now 6:04. Let's turn to our other top story of the day, the forecast as we head into the weekend.
That's right. Kristen Curry is at the Weather Center with the latest. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, guys. Still tracking a few showers and storms out there now. Not very widespread, but those of you up to the north and the east, you see the development here out near Guadalupe County, stretching towards DeBaca County. That's something we're going to be watching for the next couple of hours here. You see the lightning packed in with some of those showers and storms even this morning. But Albuquerque, just looking at a little bit of cloud cover out there. Temperature 71 degrees, southeast winds at about 57, and I'll stretch you out across the state so you can see most of us pushing 60s and 70s at this hour, with the string of 50s out near that northern state line. It is going to be another hot afternoon, and some of us can prepare for yet another round of storms. Details on where, plus your weekend forecast here in about 15 minutes.
Breaking overnight, an officer is dead and another is hurt after a shooting in San Diego, California. Authorities say the shooting happened around 11 last night. Medics took both to the hospital, where one of them died. According to the department's Twitter page, the other officer who was shot is out of surgery and is expected to survive. The police chief says the shooting happened during a traffic stop.
So we had two officers put out shortly before 11 o'clock making a stop. Almost immediately, very shortly after they put out that they were making a stop, they called for emergency cover. Other officers were in the area. They arrived shortly on scene and found both of our officers suffering from gunshot wounds.
Say they do have one person in custody in connection to the shooting. That suspect also had a gunshot wound. His condition is unclear. No names have been released.
It's coming up on 6 minutes past the hour now. Live look at the U.S. courthouse in downtown Albuquerque this morning, where a hearing over the construction on the Albuquerque Rapid Transit project is scheduled to continue in just hours now.
A judge is also expected to decide whether he'll allow the city to start construction later today. Now, before making a final decision, the judge will hear attorneys present closing arguments in federal court. The city is looking to start construction next week. In court yesterday, the city testified they say they spoke with more than 2,000 people one-on-one to get public input. City officials say they found ART will provide better public transportation, but plaintiffs questioned that claim, saying many businesses oppose the project. If the judge does not issue a preliminary injunction to stop ART, the city says it plans to sign a contract today so work can start next week. Now, we will be covering today's decision, and you can stay up to date with us on the KRQE News app.
Today, a judge is expected to decide which evidence will be allowed in the murder trial against two former APD officers. The trial for Keith Sandy and Dominic Perez starts in 2 months in the shooting death of James Boyd in the foothills in 2014. Yesterday, a special prosecutor argued that the jury should not hear about Keith Sandy's law enforcement training at the state police 20 years ago, before he was an APD officer, saying that training is outdated. But the defense disagreed. They also don't want to allow any video from Perez's helmet cam right after Boyd was shot. We will have a crew in the courtroom today for the judge's ruling. We'll keep you posted.
Happening now, the U.S. government says it's considering changing restrictions on blood donations from gay and bisexual men. Right now, LGBT men who have been active with other men in the past year cannot give blood, but the FDA is now taking public comments on the issue. The agency wants people to submit ideas on what other blood donor policies could look like. A ban on blood donations from gay and bisexual men was established in 1985 to reduce the risk of HIV in transactions.
This morning, a trial out of Nevada has a lot of people talking after a judge allowed a robbery suspect to cover up his tattoos. The reason is that those tattoos reflect white supremacy. The request was so the 24-year-old Basil Morgan could have a fair trial, and according to the Fox affiliate in Las Vegas, the makeover, the makeup that was put over it, was paid for by taxpayers. The court will also keep witnesses from describing the tattoos on the stand. Some are asking if it's fair, since Morgan got the tattoos on his own.
If you're in the market for a job, tomorrow could be your lucky day. You now have a chance to work at this year's New Mexico State Fair. Expo New Mexico says there are hundreds of short-term positions up for grabs. They'll host a job fair on Saturday from 10 to 2 at the Youth Hall. For more information, just head on over to KRQE.com or our KRQE News app.
People living in one Chicago neighborhood on high alert this morning after their neighbors say they had a scary run-in with a thief. That couple fell asleep in their living room, and they say an intruder crept in around 3:30 in the morning. That man was caught on camera, roaming the house, snooping around, eventually stopping at the top of the stairwell. You might be able to make it out here in just a second, right there in that highlighted section. The couple says he lingered there at the top of the stairs for over 10 minutes.
The creepiest part about all of us, we didn't see someone breaking the home, taking something and leaving. We saw someone just lurking over us for over 10 minutes while we slept, just watching us sleep.
And the couple says he may also have been watching a movie that was left playing. They believe that he walked up several flights of the buildings in the back stairwell there and entered through an unlocked sliding door. They're now taking extra precautions in that area. That is a story that would give me goosebumps, isn't it?
So creepy.
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
Maybe they'll track him down. They got the video, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens next.
They're
What's going on? I just wanted to call it.
frantic 911 calls flood Albuquerque dispatch over a neighbor firing off random shots. Now that man is facing charges. Where the case stands today, coming up.
Also, final arguments. Attorneys on both sides of the controversial ART project are about to get a last chance to present their case before a judge when a decision could be made.
And Hillary Clinton looks ahead toward November, officially accepting her party's nomination. What's up coming up for her?
We have to decide whether we will all work together so we can all rise together.
Hillary Clinton calling for unity among Americans in her historic speech last night as the first woman nominated by a major party for president.
And she and Donald Trump, her rival, are gearing up to now face off in November. The Democratic National Convention just wrapped up a few hours ago in Philadelphia, and this morning KRQE national correspondent Mark Meredith is live right where cleanup is already underway. Mark?
Adam and Fernanda, that cleanup is going to take a long time today. I can still hear them. The brooms are out there. They've been out there pretty much after the balloons fell last night. But what's amazing is that this campaign is going to continue long after the events wrapped up at the Wells Fargo Center. This campaign, still 102 days left. And tonight, though, I should say tonight, it's been a long day and a long morning. This morning, Hillary Clinton is hoping to appeal to voters that are not just necessarily Democrats or Clinton supporters in the past. Instead, she's trying to reach out to new voters. Here's a brief clip of what she said last night.
I will be a president for Democrats, Republicans, independents, for the struggling, the striving, the successful, for all those who vote for me and for those who don't.
Hillary Clinton really trying to do a little bit of damage control there because she knows necessarily what her image is like, not only with the media, but with voters all across this country. She had those unfavorable ratings back in 2007, 2008. The campaign really is trying to highlight, though, Hillary Clinton, a different kind of candidate than maybe you thought you knew. She also had a chance to try to take down her opponent, Donald Trump, someone who offered plenty of punches against her last week in Cleveland. Clinton made sure to paint him as a bigot and also as a bully. Whether or not, though, the voters will agree with this, we're still going to have to wait to see for the polls to come out. We'll have more throughout the election, but for now, reporting live in Philadelphia, I'm Mark Meredith, KRQE News 13.
Mark's been on the ground for us for both conventions. We appreciate your live report, Mark. Thanks.
All right, and now looking ahead at the weather, Kristen Curry is here with what you can expect as you head out the door this morning. Kristen?
Good morning, guys. When it comes to today, we're still tracking a little bit of that morning rain. More so this afternoon. We got to watch some of those stronger storms, but we'll take what we can get this morning. Most of that lightning has faded out, but there's still a few pockets here and there out towards DeBaca County, Guadalupe County too. Seeing a little bit there on the southern edge of that county line, but a little bit of rain too. So we'll take the rain. Gusty winds will just have to grin and bear this morning. Albuquerque, a great sunrise once again. You see a little bit of cloud cover over the mountains. 71 degrees out there. Southeast winds about 7. Winds will stay out of the south-southeast about 10 to 15 this afternoon. Spot storms a good bet for those of you up in the higher terrain. We'll be lucky to see anything in those lower elevations within central areas, including the Albuquerque metro. I'm hoping for an isolated storm, but I'll tell you, rain chances looking better and better as we get into the weekend and more so next week. So got a lot to talk about in that weekend forecast. I'll break down what you can expect both Saturday and Sunday and what's ahead for the next week coming up.
In just hours, the final day of the ART hearing in federal court will get underway. Today, a judge is expected to decide whether he'll allow the city to move forward with the controversial Albuquerque Rapid Transit project. News 13's Sarah Yingling is live downtown with the latest.
Fernanda, this decision is set to come after dozens of hours of testimony from witnesses on both sides of the issue, all in order to meet that potential construction start date deadline of next week set by the city.
We're looking at contracts that the city would like to enter to get started on at least the pre-construction parts of this project. And there are, as you heard Mr. Reardon testify, there are costs associated with delays. And so that's the reason that there's a sense of urgency.
Yesterday, the judge heard the city's side of the story. They had witnesses take the stand who worked on ART for years. Their goal was to show the thorough look the city took at the impact of the project in Albuquerque. The city says they spoke with 2,000 people who said they believe this will provide better public transportation and even give the area a boost economically. But those opposed are questioning how the city came up with that conclusion. They also brought up concerns over traffic congestion. They say the numbers presented were simply based on a traffic engineer's assumption.
Really important is the traffic diversion issue, the safety of lead and coal and other streets that are affected, the side streets along Central in Nob Hill and on the west side. So that's a critical issue that it's clear that wasn't really looked at.
And something interesting to note, Fernanda, that if the judge does not issue a preliminary injunction to stop ART, the city says it plans to sign a contract today to get work started on the project next week. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Now closing arguments are expected to start at around 11 this morning, and we'll be keeping you up to date on air and online throughout the day.
Happening today, the Attorney General in Michigan is expected to announce more criminal charges in connection with Flint's water crisis. Back in 2014, the small town's water was found to be tainted with lead after the city's water source was switched from Detroit to Flint to save money. 3 government employees are already facing criminal charges over that crisis.
Also today, the public will get a first glimpse of the Connecticut school built to replace the one where a massacre killed 20 children and 6 educators. Sandy Hook Elementary was torn down after the tragedy. In its place, a new $50 million, 86-square-foot school was built. It's scheduled to be open next month.
It's time is 6:37 this morning. A man accused of shooting at homes in a neighborhood near Tramway and Copper 2 nights in a row is expected in court today. Police say he was standing in his father's backyard when he fired those shots. Dispatch got at least 21 calls, including some from Foot's own aunt, who was inside the home they share.
What's going on outside? I'm in my room. I am so scared. I'm on the floor in my room.
The next day, several neighbors say they found bullet holes in their homes. Police arrested Foot a few days later. He's charged with shooting at an occupied dwelling. This incident allegedly happened about a week before Foot was scheduled in court for a similar incident, again accused of firing a gun in a home last year. He's now in jail on a $50,000 cash-only bond.
This morning, 2 police officers in Tennessee are being called heroes after saving a 70-year-old woman from a car fire.
Come on, get out of that car. Get out of that car. Get out of that car, folks.
Dashcam video captures the officers running to the burning car. When they manage to get inside, the woman is unconscious because of a medical condition. They still somehow get the door open and drag the woman out of the car. She did suffer a few bruises, but is otherwise okay. She later thanked the officers who saved her life.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she's
Incredible.
very grateful. Yeah.
Wow. All right.